Our main character bursts through the door introducing the demon lord who was waiting for him. It was a day for them to settle their beef, and she wanted to also settle it. She pulled a paper out asking for marriage, and he immediately refused. He wanted to know why the brave hero would marry the demon lord. This was because she showed immense love with the hero. She thought he came there to see her, which was wrong, and she just liked him. She tried to seduce you, but he wanted to kill her for killing people for her own personal gain. She thought kill would be a new catchphrase, and obviously he was disappointed. He raised his sword and brought it down with huge force, and she shattered the sword within one punch, closing her eyes. He was just dumbfounded with his sword. She meant when she annihilated the human race, she would allow herself to die. She was dying with joy, and he was filled with anger. He wanted to end her before that fate occurred. In her castle, she was wearing a shirt of our main character and didn't get married. She had posters, cutouts, pictures of our boy, and wanted to see him. She asked her crew what about the images of him today. She was admiring the photos and wanted to live in his hairline. Until she saw a woman with you. The person on camera duty explained it was his childhood friend named Emma. She thought he was having fun and asked if she knew more about you than her. Her mood darkened and wanted Emma to the castle. You appeared asking what was going on for her to kidnap his childhood friend. Demon Lord said it was his fault for not sharing that information for her selfish self. She raised her hand about to end it, and he was ready to fight with his blade. She said she finally knew what she could do to cause trouble. A clone was brought out that looked just like you. It looked like the real him, and he yelled that it was weird for her to do this, and she denied it. She was sad that she only had you while you had people in his town while she had to wait alone in the castle for you to come home. Home? He thought. She wanted you to stay by her side, scratching his hair in disbelief over himself being recreated with magic. She didn't use magic. Instead, a 3D model of him projected from a hologram through a screen. She wanted to make it with him in mind, and he wanted her to use magic instead to be less creepy. The designs and movements were made by her childhood friend with supervision from her director. He was glad she was okay and didn't want to play her games anymore. She was startled and said it wasn't a game. She knew you would ignore her unless she tried something, and she just had great love for him. She began crying with tears overflowing, startling him. He wanted to calm her down. After all, she was the demon lord. He had enough of her strange attitude, and his mission was to kill her. He was going to go after the demon lord until he killed her. She was fond of those words and thought he was accepting the marriage. She asked for kids, but he wanted to kill her instead. She was dressed as a human coming to his birthplace to smell him. She was observing photos of him and remembered places he had been to like a rock. She was taking photos before someone asked why she was there. Yu was there annoyed, and she asked for marriage. He refused. She thought it was a testament for the loving future, but his thoughts was, it was her last will. They were arguing, and he asked about her grim talk. She didn't believe she had a grim voice, instead she just admired him. He asked for her intentions to be here in this town. She noticed he knew it wasn't about her dreams, they were here instead. Our boy thought she was going to attack the city. A pilgrimage to the Holy Land, she said. He was annoyed she was playing around, but she wasn't. She was serious because she cleared her camera roll and had a travel book. A plush of you that sounds like him, which wasn't necessary. It was her off-duty day, but she doesn't have one being the demon lord. He didn't care about her day off. He didn't want the town to panic because of her, but she never goes out. She dreamt of him with excitement and didn't want to bother anyone. She just wanted to see you. With no bad intentions, she knew his address and would go there. She whined, not wanting to go home, instead traverse the Holy Land. She had love towards him, but he wasn't accepting it. He gave her guidelines of what to do, allowing her to stay. He put her hat back on and wanted her horns to be hidden. She blushed and she wanted to know the fabric softener he uses. The next day, he was there in front of the Demon Lord's castle at the gate. His friend wanted to go home because he's going into the castle by himself and he's lonely. He started to confess how angry he was about him. He broke into the castle and no one was there, anticipating a surprise attack. The Demon Lord ran late and asked if he waited for her. She wanted to fix her bangs, and it was hard for her to keep it in place. She wanted to appear cute for her boyfriend. He was asked if she was the Demon Lord. He was ready to strike an attack, but the hero didn't want him to. Instead, he kissed her hand, honored to meet her, not knowing she was a pretty lady. She was memorized by his introduction. He asked what Otto was doing, but he thought she was truly his girlfriend. He wanted to date her if it was true that Yu wasn't dating her. She was blushing shy that if he said that, it would be troublesome. She was afraid of falling in the field, whatever that means. She rejected Otto, and her face turned red. He grabbed Otto's hand with a serious face, wanting him to stop. She thought he was protecting her, but in reality he said it was dangerous if she were to attack. He was lecturing him for not having enough tension. The Demon Lord thought Yu was enough fan service, and she started ranting about love. He was ready to kill her and got his henchmen to ready up as well. He brought his magic book and started chanting a water spell. The water splashed onto Yu. Yu yelled what he was doing, and he couldn't attack her. It was really an effective move against her because she fell from Yu being wet. She said they found her weakness about Yu's flat hair. He was shocked that she actually survived that. He was ready to fight again, and a wind spell was casted onto Yu. He was disappointed with why he got hit by a tornado and was the most beat up of the three. It was somehow still super effective against the Demon Lord. She had a sign-up of complete defeat even though they haven't fought. She was dining and she was upset about Yu. She knew the exact time down to the minute since Yu had visited. Emma told the Demon Lord why he has not been coming lately. Yu was part of her 4 survival needs to live: water, shelter, food, Yu. She was told she was still eating, but she didn't want any food. She hasn't been eating properly, and a demon commander had to step in. As her vassal, he had to find a solution to the problem, wanting to gather her minions. She was all alone, depressed, surrounded by pictures of Yu. A knock occurred on her door, and she said she wasn't hungry for food. Yu was there, but was it real? This shocked her, though. She really thought it was Yu for a moment, but more of them swarmed in like a rat infestation. They all stared at her, wanting to leave the situation for them. Our boy was mad because Otto sent him over to get a new weapon, but it was a reservation only. He made Yu camp somewhere for 2 weeks when he was supposed to be home earlier. He was mad and wanted to kill the Demon Lord and heard voices from within a building. He saw through the window that there were tons of him. He was sweating, thinking it was a ritual or black magic that will be inflicted on him. The henchmen knew they were not the hero and couldn't cheer her up in that way. Instead, they prepared generic heroes. They handed in earbuds that said, "I love you." She started blushing, realizing it was his voice, and they made it from sampling his voice and manipulating it. He made it so there were to her. Those photos were found by hidden cameras and re-editing them, having 400 of them. Lastly, he pointed to a dish laying on a table. Onigiri was on the table, and she thought it was just regular onigiri. Wrong, it was made by the hero, and she was flabbergasted. They did research on Yu, rice, and more factors to produce an onigiri the hero would make. She started to analyze the size, rice, etc. of the onigiri. She ate one and thought it was salty, and since it tasted bad, it was something the hero would have made. It was so good. The demon commander took off his mask, smiling at how cheerful she was. She started crying and dived into her crowd of henchmen. Yu was watching this and banged on the door, thinking they were a bunch of idiots. Atu was with the Demon Lord, and she wanted to learn how to make Yu smile. She brought out his usual face with her, and she didn't hate the expression, but wanted better. She was jealous when she saw him smiling with other people. She wanted him to smile, and Atu felt sympathy for her, until she said she would destroy everyone, or she should just make him smile to remove the feeling of jealousy. She was filled with joy when Atu offered to help her. She asked when he hung out with the hero when he smiled. His thoughts were him threatening him and a bad mood. He always smiled, he said, but she was angry at him for the fan service. A suggestion was to make him smile by giving a gift for him. She doubted herself, but Atu comforted her, saying he wouldn't complain. It didn't matter what it was, and she was going to offer a country her predecessor conquered. Atu told her it was too much for a country, and she was going to wrap it up, and it wasn't what he meant. He was happy when he got a new sword, and she thought. She sparked wanting to create the sword, but Atu thought it was too ambitious for her. She didn't know what to do. Atu slammed the table, having the greatest idea. "It's because you're the Demon Lord," he said. The moment he sees her, his fight mode switch activates and can't smile. She wondered what she could do, and he just looked at her smiling. She was in the farms hiding her horns. Wearing clothes meant for a proper woman who likes to bake, she asked if it would work. He assured her it would. Atu was having a blast with her, and he would be happy if she became his wife. She smiled, admiring his words, and was thankful. He was jealous of the hero and rooted for her. Yu immediately recognized the demon lord asking her intentions. She introduced herself, but she already did it earlier. He was angry, pulling out his sword, and wanted to take her out. She started making up fibs that he didn't fall for and took a step but tripped. A lot of stuff came from her withins, for example, assorted ham and a start of papers as thick as a dictionary. She pulled a sword from her withins, and it was freshly made. It had their names on it, and he didn't need the names, but the sword was nice. She was worried about parts of the spelling, and he realized she actually spent time making it. He laughed, asking what she was actually doing, and she caught the smile. She was going to make more things with their names on it, but he declined. Otto spawned and congratulated the demon lord for making him smile. She was smiling at herself for making him smile. How contagious. Yu was grabbing onto Otto, and the demon lord ran to him with affection, wanting a hug.